What role did economic stagnation play in the Soviet Union's fall? Imagine a giant machine that's supposed to run smoothly but has been stuck in the same gear for years. That's what the Soviet economy looked like by the late 1980s. For about 20 years, growth slowed down significantly, and shortages of everyday goods became common. People waited in long lines for bread, milk, and even basic clothing. This wasn't just a small problem. It was a sign that the system was struggling. The Soviet economy was based on a centrally planned system, which meant the government decided what was produced, how much, and at what price. But this approach created many issues. Workers had little motivation because they were paid the same regardless of how much they worked or how well they performed. Factories often produced just enough to meet quotas, not to be efficient or innovative. The phrase, "they pretend to pay us and we pretend to work," summed up the attitude of many workers. Adding to the trouble was the huge amount of money spent on the military. During the Cold War, especially in the 1980s, the Soviet Union allocated between 30 and 70% of its industrial output to defense. This was a response to the arms race with the United States, which was increasing its military budget under President Ronald Reagan. While the Soviet Union tried to keep pace, it couldn't sustain these high military costs forever. This diverted resources away from consumer goods and other sectors that could improve people's lives. In the late 1980s, Mikhail Gorbachev introduced reforms called Perestroika, or restructuring, to fix the economy. But these changes often made things worse. Prices were liberalized, which caused inflation to rise. Factories hoarded supplies to protect themselves from shortages, and trade disruptions became common. The government printed more money to pay for wage increases, fueling inflation even further. The Soviet Union also relied heavily on energy exports like oil and natural gas. When oil prices dropped sharply in the 1980s, the country's income from exports fell dramatically. This loss of revenue made it even harder to keep the economy afloat. Without enough money coming in, the government couldn't invest in modernization or improve living standards. All these economic problems made the Soviet Union less able to compete on the world stage. Its military might and global influence depended on a strong economy, but stagnation weakened both. People's faith in the system waned as their everyday lives didn't improve. The combination of internal economic issues and external pressures from the cold war created a situation where reform became impossible. Eventually, these economic struggles contributed heavily to the collapse of the Soviet Union. As the economy faltered, political stability eroded, and the Soviet bloc started to break apart. The inability to modernize and meet the needs of its citizens made the entire system unsustainable. So, in the end, economic stagnation was a key factor that pushed the Soviet Union toward its final days.